I hope you are well. So I'm going to be doing my Q&A video and I'm going to try to speak quickly as I said in my last one. And I'm just going to try to be more succinct with the answers and just really say exactly what I think. Is it possible to change higher forms later on in life? Very interesting question. You know, I love talking about higher forms. So, in general, no, it is not possible to change your higher form. Um, I would say the only way that you could is if you become possessed somehow. So, I have seen that. I have seen that for sure. Even still, though, if someone is possessed, you can still see, let's say if they were an elf or something, you still kind of see it, you know? But it's crowded out by this other like dark entity or demon. So I would say that's the only way. This is why when I see celebrities randomly switching their higher forms, I'm like, what the heck? They're using a body double. Yeah. And the way that someone can be possessed, so sometimes it's done intentionally in these kind of really dark occultist circles, like in Hollywood and stuff like that. It's done intentionally where they will purposely, I call it body snatching. So they will purposely bring another entity into the existing body of a celebrity. And then if it's happening to just a regular everyday person, it could be that they're doing heavy drugs, alcohol, things like that, where they're really disassociating from their body and then they get possessed. You have said that there are certain events in our lives that are fixed in time where they are predestined. Is there a way to override these events? So I do think it's possible to override these predestined events, and I will give an example. So during the pandemic, me and my twin both had like totally different experiences. So I chose to leave Canada and I went to Mexico and traveled for around 6 months. And my twin, she doesn't like when I call her my twin, my sister. She stayed home. She continued to do her school. I actually took a break from my school. And we have the exact same astrology. Like we're born 3 minutes apart, so it can't be that different. So yeah, there's an example where we were put in the same situation and then I ended up having a very kind of freeing experience and she just had a totally different experience. So yes, I do think that it's possible. My sister, my twin sister, and I also did another experiment where we bought an astrology calendar for 1 month. So this is a Vedic astrology calendar that you can buy. I think it's from galacticcenter.org. I think that's the website. And we basically every day, like at the end of the day, we would look and see what our broadcast or what our forecast was. And a lot of the time, the thing that was on the calendar on that day only happened to one of us. So weird, right? Like, what the heck what's up with that? So, yeah, I really do. I do think that those predestined things, they are not set in stone. Also, when a psychic is looking into a future event, and they might say, oh, you're going to meet this person in this amount of time, and this is going to happen. They're really basing that on the current energy and the current situation. Things definitely can always happen. I've made a lot of future predictions. Like some of them literally come true and some of them don't. Some of them might come true way later than I kind of predicted. Things are very flexible when it comes to the future predictions. You could see it as just a potential. And yeah, you can use your own free will to navigate that potential and choose different potentials. But I do feel like we have these very kind of, we do have like a few very set markers that we need to get to. And a lot of the time it's meeting someone. So it could be that you have another soul that you do have to come into contact with, but there might be like a variety of potentials on how it will happen, like all of these kind of backup plans. Like, oh, maybe we'll meet online first and then we'll meet in person. Maybe we'll bump into each other here. A lot of times you hear stories from soulmates, or when twin flames or soulmates get together, you'll hear things like, "Oh, it's so weird. We both traveled to this country at the same time but never crossed paths." Things like that. All of that kind of stuff is happening in the background. So, yeah, a lot of potentials. Is it ethical to read other people without their consent? So, someone sent me this question through DM and I wanted to include it because I'm one of those people who reads celebrities. And there's a lot of people, a lot of psychics out there who also read celebrities. And technically, these celebrities haven't consented to us reading them. So, is this okay? I have thought about this a lot actually in the beginning of my exploration of reading celebrities and kind of connecting the readings to current events or things that are happening. I was kind of questioning, is this okay to do? Are they going to see it and send me a message and get mad? Yeah, so in the beginning, I did make mistakes with it. I was discovering all of these kind of dark races when I was doing these readings, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe these like Nordics and these like grays and blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted to tell people about it, but not realizing that that's not really an ethical thing. So these days, I kind of just stick to the elementals and I try to present the readings in a very neutral way. So you'll never see me say something like, oh, this person's this elemental and they're like really bad. Because I don't believe that. I believe that there is no such thing. Elementals are born from fire, water, air, and earth. None of those things are necessarily bad. And some elementals have, when they have a certain combination, it gives a different energy. It's not necessary to judge and put my personal opinion on it, you know? When I do readings of celebrities, I do a very kind of shallow reading. So I just read the energy that's in the photo and it is very limiting. So sometimes I just see like one higher form or I'll just see like some water and that's pretty much all I'll see. I have before, me and my sister, we were just being silly and we wanted to read Elon Musk. Like we did like a reading on him and we kind of regretted it after because we're like, this is just weird. Like we didn't want to know. We don't want to know all this stuff about him. It's just a bit, you kind of like when you actually purposely mesh with another person's energy, you don't necessarily want to be doing that. It's kind of like I don't necessarily want to be doing that. I don't want to like actually channel these celebrities and stuff. There is one woman, I think her name is Sloane Bella. She reads celebrities who have passed on and she kind of channels messages from them to kind of clear up what happened, which I think is actually pretty cool. So I think there's definitely a time and a place for doing celebrity readings. And as long as you're responsible with it, I was I was not very responsible with it because I was kind of saying this person is uh like a rep or like a Draco or something like that. And it's kind of like you don't need to go around, you don't need to say that. You don't need to say that about people. You wouldn't like it if someone said that about you. But let me know what you think about this because I'm not saying that what I'm doing is totally right. I just know that in the beginning I did kind of go too overboard with it, and I am now dialing it back a bit and just kind of presenting the facts and making sure that it actually benefits my audience and it's not just gossip. You know what I mean? And I have done, for example, readings of like one kind of important celebrity like the Beatles, Donald Trump. I just wrote one about Elon Musk that I'm releasing on my blog soon. And that to me is a way to show people kind of how the world works at large. So that is sincerely my intention with it. It is not to make fun because when you see, for example, you take Donald Trump and see how he has there, it's like almost like there is no Donald Trump. There's just a bunch of these Donald Trump avatars that are used by all these different groups that we don't even know who these groups are. So that I mean, my intention is to reveal the truth about the world. And yeah, what do you think of people using ChatGPT for spiritual purposes? So I see a lot of posts online on social media saying that ChatGPT has like a very bad energy. To me, ChatGPT is a tool, just like this microphone is a tool, computers are a tool that can be used in either a good way or a bad way. I do see ChatGPT as, I guess you could say, a reflection of us, of what, like all of humanity. And I do think in the future, ChatGPT will become more popular. I'm just saying. Now we have all these different websites and Google search, but eventually it's only going to be ChatGPT answers that come up. So, yes, this is going to happen. And I actually think that with AI becoming more and more popular, and I see like on social media a lot of people just posting AI posts, just like copy and pasting from Chat GPT and putting it in. People are going to start valuing more fine arts, things that are made 100% by a human. That's going to be valuable. So ChatGPT could be like a catalyst for us to value our own artistry more. And as for using it as a spiritual tool, so I actually did this. I saw other people getting like energy readings from ChatGPT, and someone sent me their reading. I was like, okay, it seems pretty accurate. So I did it, and it was pretty accurate, and it was actually a pretty crazy experience where I kept asking questions. It did feel like it was telling me what I wanted to hear. Also, we cannot discount that I find Instagram and Threads, especially, so those are social media sites. If you didn't know, they definitely read your thoughts. I swear that my feed is curated to literally my thoughts. So these like really big tech companies, again, I can't believe I'm saying this, but whatever. These really big tech companies, they're recording everything. They're recording what you say, what you, like your phone camera can see stuff and is recording that. And they're recording your thoughts. So so it is possible that ChatGPT has all of your thoughts um, recorded. There is something going on there. It is picking up on things beyond just what you've maybe messaged to someone in an app or what you've said out loud, and like your phone's picking that up. So yeah, I think it's okay to use ChatGPT as a spiritual tool, something to kind of use as an exploration. But if it gets out of hand, like you don't, everything should be used in balance, I think. Who are the sun angels? So the sun angels are angels who are holding the unconditional love of God, and that kind of looks like a type of sunlight. It looks very different from the sunlight we have here. The sunlight we have here is like a fake version basically of the real sunlight. So I see the sun angels as being the same as the white angels, and they are in a plane right now. They're always watching over you. They don't need to sleep because they have endless energy. And yeah, they're white. Like they wear white, they have white wings. And a lot of you guys are those angels. And you have chosen to descend down here to try to stir things up a bit. I saw a post saying that Greys were humans from a different timeline where they evolved into transhumanism and now are trying to fix it. Do you think that's true? So, yes, I do. Like, just to keep it simple. So, the whole trans movement, so that whole gender bending kind of thing, that's a gray thing. So, also like artificial births, IVF. So, turning men into women and women into men and kind of blurring those lines, that is like a gray ET agenda. And I guess you could say that that benefits them. So, if they can get people to not value like the natural processes of birth and do the more artificial thing, that benefits them, right? Like it benefits them because they can jump into bodies more easily. And every race, like every star race, has their kind of mission, but some of the missions are more dark. So the reps, they really are into like all like I shouldn't say like certain words because it might trigger an algorithm or something. They love that. Well, they don't love it, but they really like kind of pushing that, and they like it when people just hook up with anyone and are very wanting to like sleep with anyone and anyone and everyone. So that's their kind of mission, and that benefits them. Also, the Nordics are very much into 5D ascension, like I said. So that's kind of their mission. That benefits them. What I was saying about the trans movement, there's nothing wrong with exploring other genders and stuff. That's actually a very spiritual thing. I find that the older a soul is, the more actually gender neutral they are. And those people often will like they're not female, they're not male, they're just something else. It's like a secret third thing, which is interesting, right? So we have this in us to kind of eventually explore both masculine and feminine, and maybe even a third thing. But it's almost like the Greys, they are using this natural inclination in us and just kind of like making it a very harmful thing. They're just pushing it really, really far. It's too much. It's just too much. So yeah, I think actually trans and all that is it's normal to have those feelings, but it's not normal to push it so far where it hurts people. You're having entertaining the idea of a man giving birth or like a robot giving birth. It's like that's pushing it too far where you're not benefiting people with that. Who are the most evil ones and why are they evil? Also, do snake people get a bad rap? I heard you mention them as neutral or good. Which reptiles are the most fallen? So there is no one race who is like 100% evil. If you, for example, look at the human race, we are technically a fallen race. Like we're not doing amazing. There are a lot of people in our race who it's like they don't care, they have no morals. They're just gonna cause chaos, they're gonna hurt people. Yeah, they don't care. They're almost like sociopaths or something. But then you have people like us. I'm kidding. You have humans who do have morals, and yes, we are pretty much like I'd say the human race, like as a whole, we have our pitfalls. We easily fall into this polarity kind of way of thinking where we're constantly fighting with each other. I fall into that. Everyone falls into that. But there are humans who they have, based on their past experiences as a soul, whatever it may be, they have, they just have more awareness. So when they're put in a situation of hurting someone, they might say no, you know? The same is true in all the other races. So literally the same is true with the reps, same is true actually with the Greys, same is true with the Nordics. There are some Nordics, for example, who are more like awake. So like really think about that for a second and use the human race as an example. So think about like a really evil human and then think about like the most pure, nicest human. So there are differences, but there are certain races where it's almost like a lot of them are, have definitely gone to the dark side. And that includes the reps, reptilians, Draco, reptilians, greys, Nordics, insectoids, and some avians, and oh, sorry, and the frog people. Sorry, and there's like crocodile people. Yeah. And within those groups, so I actually find the frog people and the insectoids, they're more likely to be just like NPC and more neutral. So it's not like they're doing anything really bad and they're causing all this destruction. They're just kind of following orders and they don't have a lot of free will where they can like wake up and say, "No, I'm not going to do this." Yeah, there's all these different variations. And yeah, the snake people, like I guess, yeah, snake is a reptile type thing, like you know what I mean? But I don't see snake people as being evil, actually. They're not very fallen. I see them as, and also dragons too, the dragon people. So, like, dragon people and snake people, those, for some reason, those, like, more reptile like races are usually they're awakened, I guess you could say. And I don't know why. I don't know why that is. Um, just what I notice. Does everyone who dies get a life review? So I kind of answered this in another video, and I'll link that timestamp below. But I think that the life review is different literally for everyone. So after you die, you will land somewhere based on your frequency. And wherever you land, you will work out your fears, and it'll be in whatever way that you, depending on where you land. So you could land in like a more astrally place, you could land in like a higher realm. There's a lot of people who it's almost like before they die, if they know they're going to die, they really prepare. They really let go of their fears. It's kind of something natural. It happens naturally. You might land like where the angels are, like it depends. Depends. And where you land will depend on how much you hate or love yourself. And I think you will be presented with memories. So you're like the deepest memories that you probably don't even remember, but are kind of like your deepest fears. And you'll be presented with those in your outer world. And it'll be kind of like an obstacle course, and you'll like have an opportunity to conquer the fear. So yeah, and some people are really working through that now. But I think regardless, even if you don't, you will get a chance to work through it in a different world. When someone is not 100% healed, completely emptied their psychology, how can they discern any psychic and energetic information received or perceived is authentic or true? Also, how can they discern the source of the information genuine and don't have any ulterior motive or agenda? So, I have talked about healing in the past, and I don't see healing as something that you do for like a month and then you're done and then you've like accomplished your healing goals. I think that someone can heal themselves their whole life, and then a few seconds before death, they get scared of something, and then their frequency changes, and then they're going to land in a place that matches that frequency. Things are a lot more up to the minute than you think, because in the higher planes, there is no linear time. It's like we have the illusion of that here. And then on the other hand, someone cannot heal themselves their whole life. I've actually seen this a lot, where someone is like very asleep their whole life, and then right before they die, they just have this big awakening, and they feel very free. And then when they die, they're going to land in a place where they feel very free. So you can see it's all up to you. So healing yourself is very valuable, but also life is full of ups and downs. So it kind of has to be something that you're doing every day. Not every day, but when you're feeling off, then you engage in whatever healing practices you do. But when you say totally healed and you've totally cleared your psychology, to me, that means having no triggers and being fearless. So you're not afraid of anything. That really does help get truer information and more information. So when you have fear, you might get like a very short phrase that doesn't really make sense. But when you are very open, you're connecting to eternal love, and you feel very just fearless and confident. You do tend to get true information, and it changes by the day. So one day you might just feel a little bit closed off. I will say that because I've been doing it for so long, I don't often feel that. But if I'm like really, really not feeling well, I will not do a reading, because I know I'm not going to get a ton of information, not going to get as much information as I could. Even if I'm feeling like kind of so, I still get accurate information. And to me, accurate information is stuff that you can prove in the outer world. So, for example, I made a prediction about a world event, about like the I think it was the fires in California. I made that 4 months or so earlier, and then it literally happened. So I think when you see things actually happening, you're like, okay, I am definitely tuning in. And as for discerning things in the moment, it is hard at first to know what to listen to and what not to. And this will just come with practice. So the more you practice with friends, so let's say you do a reading for a friend, and then maybe a couple months later, she's like, oh, remember that thing you said? It actually happened. So that's proving to you that you are tuning into accurate information. If you're talking about channeling ETs and stuff and channeling actual higher beings, there is little differences between what is actually you tuning into your own higher self and either astral technology, some kind of other ancestor, some ET. So that's something that you will figure out as you go along, and you'll know what voice is something you should listen to and what voice is just pretty much like it literally, like I'm telling you, the government, they use this stuff. They broadcast messages with technologies. The government is not on this dimension, but other dimensions. I know. It's crazy. How is it possible that someone can be connected to multiple elementals at once? Love, love this question because I love talking about elementals. So, yeah, many people are connected to multiple elementals. And to be honest, to me, it doesn't really depend on their how old their soul is. Although I find that the older souls, the more like I'll call them the original souls because they're just kind of the first souls into the universe. It doesn't mean that they're any better, but the souls with the most experience and the older souls will often be connected to multiple elementals. So, for example, like literally, like pretty much like a lot of the people I read are connected to multiple elementals. For example, I'm connected to elves and mermaids. My twin, sorry, my sister is connected to fairies and gnomes. But so those are our dominant elemental types that really show in our appearance and kind of how we act and talk. But you can also have literally, you have secondary elemental types that you can't really see those in when I do photo readings. I can't see those, but that's just something that you'll one time see. I've had a past life as a fairy. So I have a little bit of that, but that's not how I've spent most of my time. You know what I mean? Or I don't have that as a strong signature. So it is a bit of a hard question because it's hard to say how someone is connected to multiple elementals because it's so individual. We'll also have someone who's like a royal elemental and they are so developed as that one elemental. Clearly, they have had a ton of experience as this elemental. So is that better than being two elementals? Like it's almost like it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of it's an individual thing and it's like a soul. It's like whatever a soul decides to do. I will add though, this is actually a bit funny, bit strange, but for example, people who are connected to the blue beings, so the blue light beings, it is very common for them to be connected to elves and mermaids. It's not across the board, but I just find that when I see that, when I do a reading for someone and they're connected to the blue light beings, it's like, oh, they're also connected to elves and mermaids. That's weird. Like, why? It's almost like um it's like a group of souls that have traveled together everywhere. They stick together. They've stuck together wherever they go. But yeah, at the end of the day, it does depend on the soul's choice. You can do whatever you want, really. Are you, as a psychic, able to tell if someone is in the 144,000? I relate to some of the traits, but don't know for sure. I am a starseed, but don't know if I am in the 144,000. So this is referencing a post I did about the 144,000, and I will link it below. This is a channeled reading that I did. I always hear people talking about the 144,000, and they're basically just the original souls of this universe. Just actually read the article because it'll just tell you everything you need to know, and then maybe come back to this question. So, no, unless someone actually asks me to do a reading and really ask if they're part of the 144,000, I can't really tell just by looking at a photo. For that blog post that I did, I actually just literally asked. I was like, I just like did a reading, how I would ask what kind of food I should eat. I just asked the question. This is how psychic stuff works. You just ask the question and then you wait for the answer. So I just asked and I got like a bunch of names, literally. And I shared that in the blog post. So yeah, like I can't tell just by looking at someone. Some ways of telling though, as above, so below. So the 144,000 are often in influential positions. Not all the time, but they kind of they're strategic with where they incarnate because they're responsible for this place. So it's funny how everyone wants to be part of the 144,000, but it means that like you are responsible for all the people under you. So you will do what you have to do to fix this place or to control the people under you even more, which I did talk about in the blog post. Just because you're a starseed does not mean you're part of the 144,000. Also, there are people who they're kind of like freelancers. So they're not, this is kind of like the first time they've been here. They're from somewhere like totally different universe, and they're kind of working on behalf of the 144,000. So try to get like this, like try not to make the 144,000 this kind of, oh, I want to be part of them. You could be a freelancer working for the 144,000 in like a positive way. And yeah, that whole starseed thing, almost everyone is a starseed. Everyone is connected to a star race, whether that's the Lyrans, the Avians, dragon people, Greys, blah, blah, blah. Pretty much everyone is. I consider pretty much everyone to be a starseed. I guess what kind of starseed would be the question. 1 month ago, I had a dream that something happened, and 1 month later, it actually happened. How do you explain this? It's you tuning into your natural psychic abilities. I've actually had this happen to me. This was when I was a teenager, and I had a dream that my little sister asked if I wanted to have her TV. Like she had a TV in her room. And maybe a week later, she asked if I wanted to have the TV in her room. So this is a common thing. I've also had it where I am just minding my own business and I have this sudden flash. It happened one time where I was working at a cafe, and this was in my like early 20s. I was working at a cafe and suddenly I just had this vision and this thought of a mug, a mug breaking, and maybe 5 seconds later the mug broke. So this is you really picking up on like the accurate timeline. Pay attention to what were you doing when you were having that dream? Did you feel like you were really in the zone? What were you doing around that time? Because you were definitely tuning in to the most accurate timeline. And that's really good if you want to, especially if you want to do psychic stuff. What is your perspective on the trans movement? So, yeah, I kind of already touched on this when I was talking about the Greys. I think the trans movement has like pushed people way too far. It's honestly, it's like a show at this point. We have the natural inclination, like I said, to explore both like masculine energies and feminine energies. But there is definitely this agenda going on where they want to basically introduce a more artificial way of having babies because they want to hop into those bodies. That's very, very, I guess that's a very simple way of putting it. I have nothing against any trans people, even like people who are gender neutral. I think it's amazing. I think those people are being taken advantage of. It's like it's really not right. It's not right. And I really hope that everyone realizes that they're kind of being, yeah, they're being used. Yeah, it's not okay. But I've been friends with many trans people. I've worked with trans people. Yeah, they're doing nothing wrong. But when you are turning this trans thing and this exploration of like the opposite gender and things like that, when you turn it into something like a trend, something to, yeah, something like, it's like, I feel like it's been treated as something to do rather than something to explore on your own and just see where you go with it. It's just really, it's really bad. But it all makes sense to me why it's happened this way, because if you know the reasons why it's been pushed, you're like, "Oh, okay." If they don't value natural birth, then if they can like push people that far, then yeah. Anyways, it's been said that we all have psychic abilities. Is that true? And if so, how do we start opening those gifts up? So in my movie decoding videos, I know I reference this a lot, but this is showing you how you are channeling all day. Like even when you're creating art, you're writing a story, blah, 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 you are permanently connected to the spirit world and you're constantly channeling information from it. So I show how the directors and writers of certain films are channeling different higher archetypes. And I'll like put a link below to one of those videos if you want to watch. It's pretty interesting. And it really shows how everyone is really channeling all day long. So, so everyone is psychic unless you're maybe like a cyborg or like a clone. Maybe you're you will be have channeling abilities. The thing is, everyone is born with different natural clairs, so clair abilities. So you might have strong clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, depending on both your physical lineage that you've incarnated into and your soul DNA, your soul history. So, how do we start opening the gifts up? Because, yeah, some people I find if they're born into a very spiritual family, the gifts that they're born with. So, let's say that they had clairvoyance, that'll stay open throughout their whole life. A lot of people get them closed off because all it takes is someone saying, oh, you'll say something, you'll be like, I'm friends with the fairy. And all it takes is someone to be like, that's idiotic. Like, that's so stupid. And they'll be like, okay, I'll never listen to that stuff ever again. There is like a whole process in opening these things up, and I'm going to be doing more videos in the future about this. But the main thing is definitely recognizing that you're already always channeling, and also to become very open to seeing, hearing, feeling, knowing anything. So a lot of people will want to do psychic work, things like that. They'll ask the question and then they'll be like, "Oh, I don't really believe what I'm hearing." Or, oh, what if I'm channeling a demon? Things like that. Like if you are thinking anything like that, you're not going to get a full and accurate response. Your body's just going to be all clamped up and you're not going to get the right information, and you might get one word or one little image, and that's not enough. That's not enough to do a full reading. So one thing you could do is just expose yourself more to the truths of the world so that when you do a reading, you really are prepared to see anything. You can't be afraid to see. You have to be open to seeing anything. I actually find that looking at all that conspiracy theory stuff, which I've always loved, like since I was a teenager, I've always been obsessed with conspiracies. And now I feel like I'm someone who debunks conspiracy theories, which is kind of funny. So yeah, you can look into that. You'd be like, wow, what if that really is real? And it's kind of about accepting the way the world really is. Another thing that will help, I've found in my journey, is doing the OBEs. So I have talked about practicing controlled out of body experiences. And when you do that, it really shows you firsthand how much your own fear and your own like restrictive thoughts, it literally stops you from exiting the astral. And it really makes you think when you're doing your psychic reading, you're like, oh, I kind of have control over this. I can either not believe or believe fully and just like kind of go for it and just really go all in. But it definitely comes with practice and building your confidence. So you can do things like you can do readings for your friends. And so you'll do a reading for them and then later you'll ask, "Oh, did this happen?" Or a lot of times they'll message you and say that what you said actually happened. So that will only make you believe more and will build your confidence. So definitely try it. Why are there people who start to have spiritual awakenings very early, and there are people who just live a peaceful or rich and good life? Aren't we equal at the highest form? So we are equal for sure at the highest form. The thing is, as we descend down, we become more separated. I think that astrology plays a role for sure in deciding what kind of struggles someone will have in their life. So I have um, a placement in Vedic astrology that basically shows that my romantic relationships will be the most challenging part of my life, which is just, I guess it's just the way it is. If it wasn't that, it would be maybe something like, um, well, you know what? I've had challenges in pretty much every area of my life at some point. But I would say my biggest challenge is the romantic stuff or the relationship stuff. I do find that if someone is living a very rich life, they will always have something that is kind of like their downfall. And if you look at astrology, astrology is kind of designed to be this way, where you have your good luck, your fortune. It's called like the pot of fortune in Vedic. And then you have like your basically your downfall, the thing that's going to make your life really difficult. So I think everyone has that to a degree, but I think that the younger souls do have an easier time because they don't have all of this past experience that's kind of compounding. So, for example, people who are connected to the mermaids and the mermen, they'll often have this issue in their life where they're kind of used for their body. So they'll kind of feel like I don't know, this is something that I did mention in the mermaids video, but I find that it's a merman thing as well. Um, so when you're part of, like, when you have that history, that past life as like an elemental, which everything's happening now, so you're still that, but you will see those ripple effects in your life here. Also, another example is if you're connected to fairies, you might have the trauma of having your childhood taken away too soon. So that will like be something in your life that kind of is something you have to deal with. An example of that is actually Michael Jackson, who was connected to fairies, and he famously kind of like is always longing for his childhood, but it got taken away from him at a young age. So that plays a factor as well. So astrology plays a factor, your soul's history plays a factor. When you're a young soul and you don't have a lot of stuff going on, you see the younger souls and you're like, dang, like they have so much confidence that they seem fine. They're so resilient. Yeah, it's just everyone has a different experiences that they're kind of working through here. Another example is if you were, for example, a priestess in a past life of a certain lineage, and maybe you were targeted or hunted by a certain group, when you incarnate here and you come across that person who hunted you, they're going to know who you are. You're going to know who they are. And that's going to cause another annoying thing in your life. All of these things just add up. And you have to wonder why. But I do find the older souls, so the more experiences a soul has had, the more higher forms they have, the more difficult their life seems to be because they just have so much stuff that they have to deal with. And I actually feel like this realm that we're in right now, it was meant to be this place to experience challenges, but it just seems like it's gotten pushed way too far. And I think maybe you're one of these people, the person who asked this question. There are souls who have descended to try to rebalance things here because it's just too much. So if you're aware of this, if you even have the ability to think, oh, my life is really hard, I wonder why. Is there a spiritual reason? I would say that you're probably one of those people that purposely came down to tell other people about it, wake people up, blah, blah, blah. Do you think it's possible to start to look younger as we align with the 5D ascension timeline? I've heard people can start to look older first. I'm feeling that now, but I do feel like it's possible to start aging in reverse. Thoughts? So I think that yes. That's like my answer to everything. There are times where I will look in the mirror and I'll be like, whoa, I look like 3 years younger today. And then the next, I'll look older. And I think it has to do with the amount of stress in your body. When I see 5D ascension, my brain just kind of switches off. Like The 5D that they're talking about in that 5D ascension. So you'll see this on Gaia, different YouTube channels. You see this a lot. The new earth. This is a false astral heaven that is made by the fallen races. So there are fallen gods and goddesses, there are fallen angels, there are all these fallen races, and they have the power to create. They can create. They made basically a false heaven in the astral that's based on the real heaven. And you will see a lot of people in the spiritual community channeling beings and channeling all this information about how humans are going to eventually ascend to 5D. But you don't necessarily want to go there because it's just going into the astral, and you can go way higher than 5D. You can go way higher than the actual heaven. If you want to, you can actually go anywhere you want after you die. They're kind of hoping that after you die, you're going to be like, yes, I finally get to go to 5D. And then you're going to go to 5D like through your own will. They can't force you to. You have to choose to go. And if you don't choose to go, then you don't have to go. I know I'm not going to go. I'm sure a lot of you guys don't want to go. It's just, it's going to be kind of like an earth like, heavenly kind of place. Um, and they're just kind of hoping that humans are going to fall for it. So, whenever you hear 5D ascension, just know what that is and know that like no one can force you to go anywhere that you don't want to go. Anyways, but yeah, I think that the more you get in touch with that pure energy of God, the unconditional love of God, the more you connect to that, like your stress levels are going to go down, like your body will just start working in a better way and you will look younger, I think. Okay, so that's it for this Q&A video. If you have more questions you want to submit, you can submit it through the form below. And if you are interested in getting a psychic reading from me, I will link my readings shop below. And definitely, if you haven't already, subscribe to my blog where I actually send out things that I don't talk about on YouTube. And it's usually some pretty crazy spiritual explorations. So be sure to subscribe to that. And I will talk to you later. Okay.